I'm Jeff Cook.
And I'm TJ Wilson.
And this is Around the Circle.
I'm walking slowly, I'm taking my time. All I could talking is starting to rhyme. I'm letting go of lonely, letting go of strife. I just can't get enough of this beautiful life.
The Enneagram is a map of the... What is the Enneagram anyway? The Enneagram... Hey, TJ, guess what?
What?
The Enneagram is a map of the human personality. It's a tool for navigating relationships. I'm not going to get through this intro.
It may have to be a post-recording.
Creates language for what motivates us, and it helps us look at the way we look at everything else. Most importantly, the Enneagram is a mirror because sometimes you need help seeing yourself. My name is Jeff Cook. I'm a philosopher, not a public speaker anymore in Greeley, Colorado. And with me is TJ Wilson, businessman, lover of theology, and Enneagram ninja.
Hello.
Man.
Hey.
I have only done this intro 200 times. Do you know how I know that?
No, I don't know how.
Because today we are celebrating our 200th episode.
Oh, snap.
And you would think that I would have gotten this by now.
I feel like you did it from memory last time.
I did.
And this time you were actually reading it and you couldn't get through it.
Hey, and good news. All right, so 200 episodes. We started in 2019. So we're averaging about 40 a year, which means, we missed about 12 weeks.
Sure.
Each year due to either body failure or perfectionistic. Now that episode didn't work.
Those are the two main culprits, yeah.
That's why.
Yeah.
And in order to celebrate our 200th episode, we are going positive, and we invited one of our favorite people to be on the podcast with us. Schewee is with us again.
Welcome back.
Thanks, guys. Oh, it's an honor to be with you. Congrats on 200, and so glad we get to celebrate such a milestone in this way.
Many of you will already know Joey, and I know this because I look at the numbers for our podcast, and when it's just TJ and I, it's about this level, and when Joey's on, it triples for some reason. So for those of you who don't know, Joey does fantastic Enneagram work. She does personal consultations, she does corporate consultations, and in the year 2025, she will be releasing her first book.
Yes.
Finally.
Generally, an Enneagram, and for those of you longtime listeners will know this, a lot of times Enneagram can go negative, can elevate all of the worst elements of ourselves. And when I come to Enneagram, I much prefer, idealist that I am, to go positive and talk about the things like this is what you're made for. And so since I'm driving the ship, I'm choosing for our anniversary to go positive. And we're talking about gifts and superpowers and what makes you special and what you're really, 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 really good at. This isn't just you on your own, but in your family, at your work, and just through life. Going positive today. So this is why we brought Joey in, because she is a master of this. And so today's going to be a good day.
I think any 8 would be good for this role because remember, we're the ones who, when we learned about ourselves, we're like, where's the bad stuff? This is all great.
Of all things, I'm most envious of 8s. And that's also what I think. I'm like, this would be a fantastic place to live.
It's not bad. Sadly, the hard part comes then when we're oblivious of how that lands on people thinking that we're amazing.
Oh, right.
Well, before that was my setup. Is there anything to say before we jump into what makes you amazing?
Oh, are we going to start with 8?
We could. Of all things, I was thinking we should start with 7s.
I love it.
And I wanted to kind of get us all of us are close to 7s. You have a brother who's a 7 and a child that's a 7. Both TJ and I have best friends that are 7s. And I thought it was going to be, a fun place to begin. So if you guys are ready.
Entertaining. Let's start there.
I also I want to say out loud one of the things that I'm really excited about that we're going to see throughout this whole thing is that, Joey, your experience, especially with teaching the Enneagram, is mostly in the business and corporate community, right? So you aren't bringing a lot of the God's message to the type kind of stuff to it.
So correct.
yeah, we have all of the, like, we bring up, the spiritual dimension of a lot of these things, and especially when we're talking about the good things that are available, we point to some type of spiritual aspect of the Enneagram when we talk about this often. And because you teach in the corporate world, you don't incorporate that as much. And so I'm really excited to hear you bringing the sort of like non-God based superpowers, or at least pitching these gifts in a way that is not directly connected to a faith, So I'm really excited about that.
Love it. Yeah. Whether you're looking at it in education or corporate, I say it marries so well with the spiritual journey, but you can also just look at it just for pure motivation. And I'm excited to bring that perspective today.
Love it.
I think he was accusing you of being a heathen.
You heard something very different from what I said.
It wouldn't be the first time, probably. You're talking to a preacher's daughter. You know what that means.
Sevens. When you think about a mature seven, a mature who has their stuff together, if you're a mature person, you have your stuff together, then generally you have a foundation by which you can actually bring good things to others. People who aren't mature don't normally bring good things to others. And what they do bring can often be toxic stuff you should throw away. So I want to start with some of that idea, like the maturity side. So when you think about mature sevens, what comes to your mind first?
I'll go. Easy for me. It's energy. It's the positive energy.
Mm-hmm.
Sevens have so much energy. I think 3s, 7s, and 8s all tend to be known for our energy. It seems to always be positive with sevens. Like if they're going to be bringing it, it's uplifting.
Yeah.
Because otherwise they're not bringing it. They're shut down. So if you're going to get it from a 7, it's going to be uplifting. It's going to be positive. It's going to be glass half full. And man, I think we rely on it as a world in ways we don't even realize.
Yeah. The occurrence of 7s in popular entertainment is significant. And a big part of that is that they're bringing the energy, they're bringing the entertainment, and it's wanting to make other people happy, right?
And not at anybody's expense.
Mm-hmm.
Like for as jokey and jovial as 7s are, they've got a good heart. They've got a good core, and it's never at the expense of another. And that's a real gift. That's a real superpower, in my opinion.
I've never thought about that. And as you say that pings for me. The 7s I know nearly all have just great hearts.
Yeah.
I also do like the idea that we rely on them more than we realize. And often it's in the difficult seasons where the voice of the 7 just suddenly kind of emerges. Both, I'm sure you see this in families. I'm sure you can see it in businesses. The images that are coming to my mind are actually the comedians who are speaking into spaces that are really troubling at times, and yet trying to bring some levity there so that we can push through collectively.
And it's smart levity. It's objective levity. I think that's where 7s and 9s align. I see that in my husband and my son a lot. Like they're just not going to get wrapped up too much emotionally. And they have this way, 7s particularly, of bringing that levity right when you need it, right when, you could go one way or the other. The road's going to split and you can go down into an emotional hole, or you can go another way. And it's like, that's when 7s just show up, I think, in some of the best ways.
They are able to read the spaces where the energy needs to change, like maybe this meeting isn't going really well, and the 7 will know the right point to be like, okay, we need to talk about something else for a little while now and come back to this. Like the ability to move on is part of that, and man, does that serve us, the rest of us, in great ways.
I love that. That's well said.
That was one of the 3 words I had on my sheet on this, was bringing interest to new and fascinating things, and versatility, especially in negative spots.
I love the term versatility. I'm in using this in corporate. One of the things that I say about 2s, 6s, and 7s as a group. And so you've got 2s and 6s who align in so many ways. They both both process with feeling, they're both responsive. But sevens join them in what I say. They start out, their starting point for the three of them uniquely is social awareness and versatility.
Mm-hmm.
So while sevens don't have a direct line to feeling, they have this natural social awareness. And what I see over and over in sevens, no matter what environment they're in. So I see it a lot with my child, usually on teams that he's playing on, but I see it in corporate a lot. My definition for social awareness is three-pronged. One, recognizing and acknowledging inherent strengths in others,
Mm-hmm.
leaning into others' perspectives with curiosity, and recognizing situational demands and opportunities. And 2s and 6s do it, but they defer to others first. 7s do it with this independence that when they're in a healthy space, that kind of leadership is just exciting to get behind.
The thing that goes through my mind there is that 7s probably have been told who they are for the rest of us very, very early on. And it probably got reinforced by everybody they knew. And eventually they become self-aware and they ask the question, is that who I want to be? And then that's where things get interesting.
Absolutely.
The head type side, especially head types who have dominant social instincts and will therefore be thinking about who am I in the group.
And there's this mental connection to others because they want the more the merrier. You know, the 7s are all about the more the merrier. And the downside is if the 7 doesn't want to do what you want to do, you can go do that and I'll still do my thing.
Mm-hmm.
But when if you want to do it, man, 7s are, I don't find 7s to ever really get much play in insiders and outsiders and being exclusive. And man, when you're someone who's afraid to join, that's pretty cool to have a 7 around bringing you in,
right?
Enthusiastically bringing you along, right?
Yeah.
Often have a radar for, you'd think this would be kind of a 4 trait, but I think 7s have a radar for the thing that is different. Like this person is an outsider and different, but they're different because they have some unique element to them. What's interesting there? I bet we can find out.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's an openness that 7s carry around with them that is like open to the world and new experiences and like trying different things. And like that's all part of what we're talking about, like the ability to like find something interesting in pretty much any place. And like if that's the only thing that's interesting, let's learn more about that and go there with that.
One of the things that is a real gift, it seems to me, on exactly this front is it's not just that they'll see the thing that's different, but they'll be able to compose a narrative about the thing that's different that sucks everybody else in. And so I'm going to tell you about this guy who looks very strange. He probably doesn't have a home and he's trying to get money through public performance, and maybe quite awkward. But when the 7 tells the story about that guy, it is going to pop and everybody's going to be, I wish I was there. Yeah. That seems like an amazing thing to have seen. Mm-hmm. And that element of the gifts they're brought, that's one thing I know happens a lot. When you think about gifts that 7s bring to the rest of us, what hits you?
The open-mindedness, I don't find them to be particularly judgmental. And again, when they're that energy for me as an 8 is to have so much energy and to like, that's where I feel the type that can meet me in that energy space better than anyone else is a 7, hands down. And when you have a 7 who's more mature, healthier, higher functioning, they have a real gift in making sure that things aren't too heavy, aren't too intense, aren't too much. And you don't even realize it, right? It's like they can bring that ease and lighten things without you feeling like they didn't hear it ultimately. I mean, that comes with that healthy part. They're not ignoring it, but they're acknowledging it. But is it that big a deal? You can't take anything too personally, I think, when a 7's around.
And I find that my best friend is a 7. We've been friends for, how old am I? Almost 30 years. Throughout our friendship, he brings dark humor into places where I am like struggling with something. And it's a way of, yeah, like you said, bringing some levity, but not ignoring the issue. And like threading that needle is something that sevens can do really, really well, of like making sure that you have some amount of levity, but also, yeah.
And I like threading the needle. I think that because it's a small space to be able to navigate, to do it
Mm-hmm.
where someone doesn't feel dismissed or rejected or, left out in some kind of way or not seen, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
I have two big ideas about the gifts, and they seem contradictory to me. And since both of you are Enneagram experts, you're going to explain to me why this happens. The one is that the 7 brings the festivity to the world, and I associate that with the celebratory, almost drunken state at its best of humanity. And on the flip side, 7s who get sober are some of the most incredible people that I know. And I don't know how to reconcile those, and I hold them in tension. And I don't know if that's a question, but I would love your comments if you have a thought.
I definitely, for me, what it brings to mind, Jeff, is the secure line. My language has always been for 7s, when they draw from 5, what does that look like? And the language I've come up with after years of thinking about it is they're more grounded. A 7 in security and maturity, when they're drawing from 5, they've still got all the same 7 stuff going on, but it's a little calmer. It's more grounded. And when you talk to 7s, a popular panel question that I like to use is, what do you wish people knew about your number? When I'm moderating panels, and almost always the answer from the 7 has something to do with, I know I keep it surface, but that doesn't mean I don't have real intellectual and emotional depth. And what you're referring to, I think, is that 7 living that out in a way that they're still bringing that positivity, but it's not over the top anymore.
Right.
And for me, this is the difference between happiness and joy. Like partying and like blackout drunk partying, but that's a certain level of happiness, and in enjoying space with people that you care about is a certain kind of joy. Like that, being able to see spaces where enjoyment can be held without artificially creating it, this is something that 7s who have gone through some of the work, they have that ability to recognize, oh, that's a carnival. That is not real joy.
I like that.
It's a good word. Last thing is I wanted to tease just the idea of leadership. All the types can be leaders in their own way. And leadership doesn't always mean that you're the point person, that you're the person with the microphone in front of everyone else. There's lots of fantastic leaders who seem to be working behind the scenes. But 7s in leadership, they have a certain quality. When you think about when 7s are bringing that influence to the group, where are 7s at their best?
When they're not limited. I think the language I use a lot is that 7s love challenges but hate expectations. And I think when you get a 7 who's risen to a leadership position, they're setting the expectations. And so they don't feel limited. And so you just kind of get the best of what they're bringing. Because of their logic mind, they can see where, patterns overlap. They can think big picture and bring all that energy. But it's when there's not the restrictions of it's got to be done this way. I think there's something really refreshing in that kind of leadership.
Yeah, part of that open-mindedness is also like an ability for vision. Like they're future focused, but also like they have an idea of where we could go, and the ability to sell a new direction in leadership. Because, organizations, if you don't know this already, organizations and institutions are really hard to steer in a different direction, right? But 7s can get other people on board in a way that's exciting and motivating, and like pitching things in such a way that it's like, it's not maintenance to start this new direction. It is something big and awesome, and we're gonna change. And like the selling of that vision is paired with the ability to have it in sevens that is great and necessary for, like, we can see it happening in corporate America all the time. Like, this business has to be shifted to this new direction in a significant way, and it helps to have a 7 up there to get everybody on board.
So I love vision so much, TJ, I don't know that I would give that moniker to any other type as a leader than 7. Visionary seems to really be. Yeah, I like that.
It's a word I have written down for their leadership gift as well. The thing, and this will play out through the other types, it seems like the gift that each of the types bring in leadership is going to be connected to their intelligence center. And here it's the intellectual vision. It's, I need to cast a vision, and that's not embodied, and that's not relational. It's going to be very heady at its essence. And yet when the 7 is able to actualize vision and connect the person or the team to the thing envisioned, that's the sweet spot. You know, I told you we could do it kind of energy that could be there.
I love that you bring that up, because objectivity is what I was thinking, right? Like, to be a visionary and say we can change this direction, like TJ was saying, isn't gonna work if you haven't put some logic and objective reason behind it. But they have that naturally. So I totally agree on the space where it's coming from, where it's the home base, if you will.
Bang. Last word on 7s.
I don't think I have anything to add.
Let's talk about some 8s. 8s and their gifts.
8s.
Lots to talk about here. Why don't we start?
Please.
TJ, what 8s bring to the world?
Well, they're strong-willed and they're forceful, and honestly, those are kind of some of the great things about 8.
Those can be positives.
The ability to decide and enact your decision is something that a lot of us do not have. And man, watching 8s just make decisions all the time. It's like, how did you do that? It's amazing to watch this process. I don't get it. It's awesome.
The mature 8s in my life routinely resonate generosity, big-heartedness, and there is always an element where they shift into the protective gear in the best way. Almost have a radar for who here needs to be elevated and encouraged and spoken over. Real mature 8s don't necessarily do this through I'm going to step in front of you and fight for you. It seems to me that most mature 8s are doing a very difficult thing, and that is speaking into your life with words that cut, and they generally say something to the extent of, you have everything you need to destroy this obstacle. And that is singular in terms of the types.
Well, you're dealing with an 8 who has had some wisdom gained on this personal journey of mine, to the point where you're making me actually a little teary. You're getting into that vulnerable space of mine. 8s are so, what we always say is 8s are so unaware of our impact on others. Usually that comes in the context of when an 8 runs over you, they don't realize it, right? That's usually where that lands. But the flip side is true. It means we don't realize when we're having a positive impact. That's not space where we think, and it doesn't drive our decisions. I think there's something really special in that we're not doing anything for a personal gain. 8s just aren't wired for it.
Right.
It's a great call. I don't see a lot of self-serving 8s in that, especially at the mature level.
And people assume, because our self-confidence is so strong,
right.
that we're doing it for our self-aggrandizement, and we're absolutely not.
Right.
That's never the case.
No, villainous 8s are going to destroy the enemy for the sake of the rest of us.
Scorch the earth on behalf of others. Yeah.
Yes, that's how that works. You got thoughts on gifts, Teach?
I mean, there are lots of them. I am, as not only a 9, but someone who's just plain not an 8. Like there is a level of intentional detachment that 8s can have that is so amazing to watch happen, and like helps inspire me to do, like, to be better at it. Like there's you were talking about like the eights not being like self-aggrandizing, but there's a level of sort of like not caring about the outcome. Like they want the things that they are actively doing to work and manage, but the strength that they're offering you, you can do whatever you want with it. And like they aren't attached to the outcome in the way that all the rest of us are. In like if somebody doesn't take my wisdom, my feelings are hurt. And eights are like that's on them. I offered them what they needed to live their life, and if they don't want it, I don't care. That's on them. And like that it's almost ambivalence, but like a really solid, good, healthy ambivalence that makes it so much easier for a lot of eights to just navigate life.
I love that. That's well said. I don't know that I would have thought that or put those words to it until you said it, but there is this piece of, because my line to two is last, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm, doing is the home base, and I'm supporting with objective reason. And that's where, and I'm task focused. It's let's move mountains together.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to show you, you have all the tools to move this mountain. I'm going to help you move it. And if you don't think you can move it, cool. That's on you. Like you said, I'm not going to force you to, I'm not tied to whether or not you believe it for yourself, but man, I believe it for you. And it stops there. Yeah. There is something to that, so that people don't feel like they have to go along, right, to please the eight.
Right.
I don't think anyone ever, and isn't it interesting how then you find your own independence? Because that's what I'm trying to foster as an eight is,
right.
I need everyone to be able to take up their own space and feel like they can.
Mm-hmm.
And that's ties to that, I think.
A gift that is not always needed from eights in a family or a group, but when it's required is sure helpful, is when there is a lack of somebody who will step in and be an authority. And that doesn't always happen, but sometimes there's a huge vacuum, and we're just like, who will fill this vacuum? And the person emerges and speaks, as kind of was saying, doing supported by reason. And it pings for the rest of us. And the confidence that comes forth from a lot of, especially mature eights, well, and immature eights, I suppose, can have this, but that is something that can just create a stability that most human beings really require. Mm-hmm. And the gift is just offered there by eights in a way that many of us need.
I like the term stability. I think I would say that is a gift, that eights just bring a certain level of, we got this, even in the midst of complete chaos.
Yeah.
If you've got an eight around, then there can be an over-reliance on it, right? But either way, you're not going to feel hopeless if an eight's around, I think. And that's...
There is a thing that happens, and this just to blow this up a little bit, bigger picture, oftentimes cultures will be really struggling, and especially when you have an oppressed people. And it seems to me historically, you will commonly see someone who has that kind of motive, confidence, heart for justice, and this will no longer stand kind of disposition, step into the fold and say, we're moving, y'all. And that is a tremendous gift, very sacrificial gift, hard gift. This person may really get chewed up if they're going to enter that space. And yet such a gift to the rest of us.
We see there's countless stories from fiction and also history of there's a group of people who are oppressed, and the only thing that they need to do is stand together to not be oppressed anymore. And most of those stories include an eight standing up and saying, hey, all of us need to stand up too, and then this is over. And like that's how it works. It's great.
My language that I use in corporate America, I when I'm teaching just an introductory know your number, I like to say, I'm going to give you a lot of descriptors. Not every box has to be checked, but there are some non-negotiables, is the way I say it. Like, this happens. If this doesn't happen with you, you're not this type, essentially. And it's probably less important with eights, because if you're an eight, you are. And if someone says I might be an eight, you're not. I mean, it's just like, that's because we're gut centered and because we're so self-assured. That's usually not the case. But my language for the non-negotiable with eights, meaning it doesn't happen with anyone else, is that conflict energizes us.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I think, Jeff, goes to the heart of what you're saying, right? Is to stand up for something. You're going to have all the objective reason behind it, but it's energizing for you to right a wrong. And when that's placed correctly, I think it can be really impactful.
There are all kinds of spaces, both like nationally and locally, and even in the smallest pockets, in which it can be such a help for somebody who loves confrontation to call out the bully. And the rest of us need somebody who's quite quick.
Yeah, sit back and laugh while the bully unravels themselves.
We can wait. Eights can wait for a long time for the slow roll of justice. People assume that vengeance is mine means that we need to exact the vengeance. Oh no, I can wait for the slow roll of justice for a very long time, and I'll just be there with my popcorn at the end.
What is the quote? It's something like revenge is a
best served cold.
Yeah,
which means the dish has been sitting on the table for a while and has gotten cold, and you're gonna eat it after. It's
yeah, and I don't need to be the one to give it to you. Like, someone else made. Truly, you made the dish yourself. Yeah. It just I knew what was coming. Yeah.
As you're speaking, the intuitional side of the gift comes out there. Mm-hmm. That is, it doesn't necessarily have to be me. I feel the entire world around me, and you are going to get pounded into sand, and it might happen from somebody else, but sure is going to be just, and it doesn't have to be me.
And I love that intuitional piece, because I am starting to believe and think and consider that for the three of us all being gut-centered types as 8, 9, and 1, right, I think what jointly causes our gut to be off is a lack of integrity.
Yeah.
Is that true for 9s? How do you experience that as a 9?
Okay, here, as short as I can make this. So there are service animals that are specifically trained to do something for someone who needs a service. So like seeing eye dogs, epilepsy patients will sometimes have animals like that. There are specific medical reasons where animals are trained to do something for a human that needs something from that animal, right? And the ADA, which is great, has said that service animals are allowed anywhere. And also, because of HIPAA, no one is ever allowed to challenge it, right? You're not allowed to ask questions. You're not allowed to, make them prove it. It's just, that's not how it works. Which also means that anyone can bring any animal into any place and say it's a service animal, and there's nothing that I can do about it, right? So when people want to bring their dogs into my restaurant where I serve food, there's nothing that I can do about it, and it enrages me to the point where I can't say anything to the people because I can't get cohesive, clean thoughts about it, so where I'm acting like a business owner and a reasonable person. It drives me so crazy, and it's not because of anything. The reason that I hate it so much is because people are abusing the system to take something from me that I'm not offering them.
Did you say integrity?
I said integrity.
Do you see the through line
I do.
Abusing the system?
Absolutely. Okay. It's lying, essentially. I mean, it's blurring the lines of truth. And for all the gray that TJ can see, if it's not truthful, he doesn't have gray. He can't step into the gray.
So it's somebody else's integrity.
Yeah, integrity is a rule. Yeah.
We intuit when someone else is lacking in integrity.
One that I thought about my own
Of course
integrity
you
when that
did,
word
my
was
dear.
brought
Of course you did.
Also, the lesson from this is that TJ hates dogs. So leadership. The instinctual side for eights comes out, it seems to me, in the energy and drive. Like anyone who's served with an eight, or even like an eight who works alongside you, may not be in charge, but the energy is there to get some stuff done, and that's a huge gift.
I hear that in marathons you kind of get tired toward the end, and then you need to get a second wind so that you can like finish. That's what they tell me, or something like that. Where you
hit the wall at mile 20 is what I
hit
heard.
the wall, and there's what 6 more miles to go, something like that.
Apparently,
and the energy needed to finish. Like I feel like eights already have that, and they're bringing it to the table every time. And so like that you need the person next to you that's saying, let's just get through it, let's just finish, we're so close, we're almost there. And like you have to chase after the 8 to get them to say that to you. Like that they're just so interested in finishing, in doing whatever needs to be done to get it done, that like all of us are in that together.
I see where this is just a perfect marriage of, in leadership, the intensity, the drive, the logic, the quick processing.
Yeah.
So eights can just do, their timeline is so different from everyone else. Everyone else's, our timeline for getting things done. And when we're in a healthier space, I go back to, you can move a mountain you didn't even think you could. And while everyone else is still doubting that you can move it, just get behind the 8 and we'll do it.
Mm-hmm. We talked about 7s and the vision side of things. When you mix the thinking with action, what hits me with a lot of very mature leadership 8s is that they focus on strategy in a way that is very different. And it is going to be boots on the ground. We are going to take that hill in a very physical way. And oftentimes it can be a big hill, depending on the leader and how they see the problems at hand and where they want to go and what that means for them. I don't want to say that the appetite, the lustful side of 8s can come out here, but sometimes that can be a great good of saying, how can we make this more, not impressive, how can we, what would the word be here?
Practical jumps into my mind. Like you can literally put your hands on it. I mean, that's the difference, I think, in 3s, 7s, and 8s is 3s. There's this goal, and I'm going to look at where I want to be, and then I'm going to back up from there.
Yeah. 7s
want to spend sometimes too long in the brainstorming of how we're going to get there, because they love that anticipation. But an 8 is the one who's, I've got a strategy that I'm creating as we go. Like, we don't need to waste time strategizing. We can do it while we walk, while we move, while we do.
Because you're so comfortable in that space.
And quick. Like the speed of it is a big part.
I love the image of practical there. That really pings for me. Because there's a lot of 3 leaders that I have in my mind who are like, let's go big. Let's do this thing. It's so impressive. And that's not the target for the 8. It's, does this work and make people's lives better? And you can cut the other stuff off your to-do list. Yeah. Because it's just showy. And the future orientation, if you look at 3s, 7s, and 8s, 7s, it's more brainstorming. Like they're going to stay in their head. 3s, it's more personal and tied to their idea of success. It can still be for the group, but it's still based on their idea of a goal. 8s, I say more often than not, our orientation to time being future is large scale problem solving. And I think that's the word I would use. If visionary is the word we would use for 7 leaders, it's problem solver for 8. Well put.
Like in part of that strategizing and problem solving, they're also really good at, like, the strategy is on brand, if you will, like what's good for the team, what's good for the organization, like the way that they're planned, because they are not self-aggrandizing, because it's not for them. They are very good at saying this is what this group needs.
Mm-hmm.
Like the alignment with the values, the messaging, the byline, like whatever it is, like the thing that needs to be accomplished, the 8s are focused on that.
And especially in my experience, for the least of these, it's the radar is going to be, who is really struggling here, and that's where the energy.
Yeah, and 8's not going to do it for you if they know you can do it for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where the least of these. If they know you can't, then they're going to bring you along. But if we're not going to get caught, we make a quick assessment on, can you do this for yourself? We're not going to do it for you if you can.
Now it's, how can we make the starting lines similar?
Yeah.
Would be
I love
the
that.
image.
Yes. Level playing field.
Yeah,
absolutely. And then if I was going to offer something, just being a misunderstood 8 in the world, a caution to people who are led by 8s or have an 8 in their stratosphere. Ask yourself if your issue with the 8 or your distaste with the 8 has to do with your own feelings of intimidation, and get past that, because we 8s we are never setting out, our focus isn't on you, so we can't be trying to intimidate you. And I think people assume that we are, but that intensity is something that just goes with who I am. It's not planned, premeditated.
Yeah. And it's the same thing as that you feel like people feel around really tall people, right? Like they're so tall, they're really intimidating. No, they're just tall. 8s aren't like the intimidation has to do with their energy and their drive, and like people who are coming at the world the way that 8s are, they seem intimidating, but they're not trying to come at you that way.
My mom says we want 8s until we don't.
It's true of some of us, maybe.
We want that 8 energy until it's turned on us, right? Until we say, no, I'm going to hold you accountable too. And then it's like, I don't know if I necessarily want the 8 energy.
The final word for me is I read this word once, and it just colored every relationship I have with 8s, and its magnanimity, and the image of big-heartedness is the filter through which I have all my relationships now with 8s, and it routinely clarifies perhaps the energy side of things for me. And oftentimes, here's where Enneagram's helpful, oftentimes the motive from which the energy is coming forth. And so I suppose just there are so many gifts that 8s bring that I feel are the deficiencies I have. And so complementariness, I'm always appreciative of the 8s in my life. And part of it is just the joy of being around 8s comes in that space. So
I love that. Thank you.
9s. Again, TJ, you don't get to go first.
That's all right.
Apparently Joey's
Fine with
going to go first. Mature 9s, what comes to mind?
Well, it's one of those things it's true of 9s, regardless of maturity level or function, higher or lower functioning. I think the superpower of 9s is truly being able to see both sides. Man, does that matter. And the ways that 9s subtly de-escalate all the time is so important and so impactful. And because 9s, who don't believe their presence matters, they're not trying to be big in the room. It's like you don't realize it's happening, and it's happening. And that's very cool.
Agreed. The seeing everybody's position creates a spirit of acceptance at times that is really strong in my experience. And then just the love of peaceableness, I think, because of genuine care for human beings that can be in the hearts of mature 9s. What always hits me is that where I'm going to be aggressive, and if I want people to get along and be more aggressive, the composure that nines often bring is something that is gift level.
I absolutely agree. Composure is a great word. That's a great word, Jeff. Positive presumption I would throw in there as well. I think that's a little different from seeing things from both sides. I have been more frustrated at times in my life with a 9 husband when he's offering someone else positive presumption. So it's so interesting because I brought that integrity piece up recently about 8s, 9s, and 1s. And I had a 9 kind of say, so does it mean I know you're stealing from me, but you must need it more than I do? And I'm like, yes, that ties in that composure and everything that because you desire harmony, your ability to harmonize conflicting points of view is just magical to observe and experience.
That was gonna be my last one. Is mature 9s when they enter a space. TJ said this and denies saying it, but I recall it. I'm sure there's a recording out there somewhere where TJ said, "I'm the weed that people bring to the party." And this ended up being helpful for me in terms of thinking about 9s, in that you add that person and all of a sudden there may be some tension in the room, but it does, kind of come down a little bit. Joe's here. We can't get a fight.
Right. Well said. I love that. That was good. You deny saying that, TJ? I think that's great.
Only because I don't remember saying it. The wisdom of it, I'm all on board with that. But
my beloved mother was a 9. Alongside 8s, 9s do this in a very different way, but it's you need to be in control of yourself, but it comes across in a very different spirit. And I suppose as a gift, her routine focus, especially when she was drunk, was that you need to be free. And there is something about the 9 who longs for you to have zero constraints and obstacles, and perhaps is even aware that you have dug yourself into a spot where you have way too much going on that's making your life chaotic. A lot of times 9s, on behalf of for the sake of the rest of us, their wish, and perhaps they may not come out explicitly, but their wish for us is, I really want you to have more looseness in your life. So that's been my experience. You're smiling, Joey.
Freedom to be you, freedom to be who you are. I've said about Billy Schewee for our whole relationship that he explains me to people in a relatable way.
I need to be explained occasionally. This is very helpful to have 9s in my life who will explain me to others. Right.
And that is a gift only 9s have. I call it relatable objectivity. Because 7s and 5s, they've got, I believe I've said this on past podcasts with you guys. I believe where 9 shifts to process is logic and objectivity. Mm-hmm. So they join that space with 5s and 7s, and 5s and 7s don't have a line to people. 9s do. Mm. And so, when I say people, the feeling center, they don't have a direct line. So 9s end up being, you embody that one type. I think it's why you're at the top of the Enneagram. If I was going to say it, it's you are the conduit for subjectivity and objectivity. You can break things down for people who feel strongly about something where they don't overreact anymore, and also see logic that they may not have been able to see if someone else tried to hand it to them.
Yeah, within a lot of this, like seeing other people and seeing both sides, like those are good and really important, and 9s carry that. And I think one of the other really, really important aspects of that whole thing is the ability to communicate that to other people.
I say that always when I'm in business, when I'm in a corporate space, I am constantly encouraging 9s to speak up. Because if you look at just the way our types settle out, there are big decisions being made in corporations all the time without much logic. Mm-hmm. Because if your logic is coming from, think about it, the way I say it is, there are only 4 types who without trying, without being conscious about it, bring logic to work. Only 4, 5, 7s, and 9s, and then 8s were the only other one. As an 8, I'm going to lose you in my delivery. I'm going to be dismissive. It's going to come across condescending. I'm going to be too fast, all those things. 5s, same thing. 5s are so logical and so heady. When they bring logic, it's usually layered with some kind of cynicism or sarcasm. So they're going to lose you. 7s have to be paying attention. If the single boned focus is hard, but if they're weighed in, they got to bring it without levity. So that's their struggle. So then it comes down to 9s, and 9s are literally the last one who will speak up. And they are the type who can bring logic in a way that everyone in the room can hear it and hold on to it. And if that's not a superpower, I don't know what is.
Well, and I also think this may just be like boots on the ground kind of experience that has taught me this, but that waiting until the end can sometimes also be really beneficial because everyone has put all their stuff on the table already. And now you can say, okay, look at all of this stuff and notice that we're talking about a ton of things that are not actually what we need to talk about. And yeah, that seeing that, I love allowing people to say more than they need to say. Because you get so much more information that way.
Gives you control.
It does to an extent. But it's not about me. It's not about my control. It's about within that idea of seeing other people, so much of what 9s want is for other people to do what they want. Like we don't want to impose our will on anyone. And we want everyone else to do what they want. To be an adult, grow up, like live your life. What do you want to do? Do that. It's great. Just don't impose your will on me.
Yeah, that's it. Live and let live. I say that all the time with 9s. Live and let live.
In the leadership side of things, the thing that comes to my mind is that 9s commonly, especially mature, will come across as old souls. For exactly this reason, they waited till the end, and so apparently you're the elder here that's filled with wisdom. The rest of us are filled with beans, and lightning, but the 9 speaks at the end. This, on one side, the 9 is very seldom going to be the entrepreneur. On the other side, if you have built something robust that is filled with a lot of relational energy, often 9s will rise to leadership after something has been built. 5s and 9s who can, come with those sorts of skills to oversee the thing and all the people. Because we talked about this in our last podcast. The 9 isn't aiming necessarily at any future goal.
Right.
The goal is right here. And the goal is, I want you all to get along. That's the only thing that matters. I don't care necessarily. I'm sure that there is I want to build something kind of maybe tertiary, but really it seems to me the goal is I want us all to get along. Am I wrong there?
No, I think that's really well said. If I think about 9s in leadership, what I think about is once they've gotten to that place and in a place where you're describing, Jeff, they can have, the thing they don't want to do is have hard conversations. Like they're just wired to avoid that, right? Perceived conflict. And yet 9s are the type to have the hard conversation, to say the hard truth to someone, and that person can hear it and feel like they were also seen. And so they can just receive it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And only 9s can do that. I have found.
Yeah.
I think it's the backside thing and this is why, again, 9s kind of raise up to leadership in big institutions because everybody's looking around and saying, well, who do we trust here? And eventually everybody says, Joe knows me. Mm-hmm. Joe understands me. And if Joe were a leader, Joe would at least care for my needs. And Joe gets that big CEO paycheck because he just sat back, as was said, and waited and just listened to the rest of us.
Wisdom and discernment. Wisdom and discernment.
And sometimes it's laziness, but it gets the job done.
That's when I say, TJ, to Billy, that later is not a point in time.
Yeah, I know. Fine.
To go one step beyond this, though, they're like a legitimate superpower is that nines have the ability not only to hear the person and speak the hard truth, they also have the ability to reconcile people in a way that I don't think a lot of other types do. And it comes out of that space. And so the ability to speak in such a way that two folks can find common ground can be a huge power. It does take, as was said, it does take initiative though. So you have to be really confident and realize that your presence matters and that you're the only one that's going to do this or the house is going to burn down.
Yeah, I like to
Sometimes.
describe the trajectory of nines moving along the triangle as if the end goal, right, is security, which would be 3. I go back from there and I say, have you ever met a 3 who didn't believe their presence mattered? No, I haven't.
Yeah.
Right. So
Right.
so a 9 starts in 9 space, and that's my presence doesn't matter. If they can once they get themselves to that 6 space, it's okay. I'm at least on this team, right? And I have something to offer. I think that's when they live into 6. And then when you can catapult from there to what I have to offer matters and it's mine to do. That's just so fun to see.
We 3 or 4 years ago did a podcast with the great Suzanne Stabile on exactly that, on the high side of the stress number for each of the types. But I think you're exactly right. Is that's a huge resource for the 9 is getting a little terror, and that's going to be motivating. And that's not all that bad. And there is you're hitting some relational earning tools in that space as well.
Absolutely.
I also think there's an aspect of I'll call it long suffering. Like the 9s can last through issues, problems, things not working well. Like there's an element of like part of that like later is not a point in time also means that we'll plant in a place and even if the things around us need to be addressed, like just planting can offer a level of stability that may help resolve some of the issues. Or even if we just wait this thing out, that issue's going to go away and we don't actually have to address it. That stability and consistency with 9s.
Steadfastness.
There we go. Steadfastness. That's a great word. Yeah.
The first thing that came to my mind when you were talking was they're the least reactive type. The least by far you are.
Mm-hmm.
But that then grows into, on that high side, on that superpower, it's steadfastness for sure.
Right. Yeah. The tortoise and the hare situation. The tortoise very likely might have been a 9.
I've used that analogy in my book, so yes, 9's at work, Yeah.
Another thing that may run across the body types is that kind of stability. And 8s, 9s, and 1s are bringing it from different places.
I love that. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, probably goes with gut-centered, I would guess. Like I can stand, like we can stand in that space. That's a good point, Jeff. I like that.
Because we're intuitional, 8s, 9s, and 1s, the desire to feel a certain way in the world, that stability is going to be primary for our own motive, which we're going to offer to others. That's what I mentioned. How it would work. Bang.
And there's a sense of like, I know this is where I'm supposed to be, and I'll wait for conditions to be right for me to be here.
Yeah, if you look at
like part of that. Yeah.
If you look at all 3 of us as being steadfast, if you consider it that way, I think then you have to look at the focus. And Jeff and me, our focus starts on the task. We're doers, it's task focused. You don't stay in doing. Your focus is actually on others first. And so you carry that steadfastness quicker to others, whereas it's probably seen more with Jeff and I in the doing.
Sure.
It's going to be relative for the 8 and 1 because tasks can and cannot get done. For 9s, harmony is going to be, that's going to be fairly fixed. in terms of getting there faster.
Yeah.
I'm frantically writing down notes here, knowing that I have 2 recordings of this, and I'm watching you, Joey, going, we have epiphanies taking place, and she actually is going to remember this, and I'm so jealous. So speaking
That's a
of
good segue. Yeah, let's jump right in. Let's start with jealous.
When speaking about the strengths and gifts of the one, jealousy and resentment.
Let's go there. Spin that and go.
And that's probably a good place for us to stop. Friends, as always, it would mean the world to us if you shared this with somebody you love, preferably somebody who just needs some love and reminders of how amazing they are. This is for them. Intro music is by The Collection, who TJ Wilson is breaking up.
They are?
They're on their last tour and going separate ways. So much love to our friends in The Collection. And that's the intro music. Outro is by Brian Claxton. And if you get into our stuff, you can find more on aroundthecircle.org, or we are presently doing a ton of stuff with Patreon and YouTube, which you should find. And as always, you can find the great Joey Schewee at, remind me what the website is.
WeSolutions.life.
Fantastic hub for doing consulting, both personally and corporate. Lots of great work there. Well worth checking out. That's what I got. Anything else? TJ?
I got nothing, man.
He's TJ Wilson. He's officially awesome. She's Joey Schewee. She's a treasure to us. I'm Jeff Cook, and who you aren't just isn't interesting. He uses